Hi everyone, I'm Jill Docherty, Visa's Head of Business Development for the UK and Ireland. This is a really exciting day for us as we're launching the first in our new series, Connecting with Partners. Visa is a champion of fintechs. We support them, we partner with them, and we invest in them because we really believe that by working together, we can deliver the next generation of payment solutions. By collaborating with a broad range of partners, we enable innovation to flourish. So of course we want to showcase these partnerships, bring their stories to life behind the innovators and the founders and hear their perspective. We're kicking off with a member of our Partner Connect program, ecolytiq. Not only is ecolytiq making sustainable spending more transparent, they're responding to the question on everyone's minds at the moment: how can I personally reduce my environmental impact? So without further ado, let's hear from our first guest, Ulrich Pietsch, the co-founder and CEO of ecolytiq. Ulrich, how are you today?
Thank you, Jill. I'm really well. Thank you for having me today, and very pleased to be part of this exciting new series.
Fantastic. So let's kick off. Could you use 3 words, Ulrich? Now, I know that's kind of difficult, but 3 words to tell me about ecolytiq.
Well, I can make it 5 words. Ecolytiq is all about transactions, and at ecolytiq we say every transaction has an impact.
Wow, that's great insight. So like talking to any co-founder, I think everyone will be intrigued to know where it all began. We're obviously looking to advance technology and solutions in the sustainable finance space. But just tell our listeners, what was the initial concept? Where was the passion and your quest behind the launch of ecolytiq? And the word sustainability is obviously used and bantered around quite a bit these days. But what does it mean to you, and how do you continue to drive that original mission kind of forward?
Yes. So for me, ecolytiq is not just another company or startup I'm founding. It's a very personal story behind it, and it starts 1.5 years ago when I was watching a movie with my 2 sons, Felix and Maximilian, 5 and 8 years old, and I thought it would be a good movie for them to see with some nice animal scenery and professionally done. But then the film basically laid out what happens if humanity fails to solve the climate crisis. And these were quite dramatic pictures. And my 2 sons started crying. And because they understood what it means when we are not able as humanity to solve this. And that for me was the final trigger to act and dedicate the rest of my professional career to the purpose of sustainability. So I was sitting together with David, one of the other co-founders, and he was into payments for more than 15 years, not 50. And he was into sustainability a lot and thinking about what happens to our planet. And he was also doing fraud analysis on payment transactions. And he found out that basically, instead of fraud analysis, we can also do sustainability analysis on payment transactions. And that's where we founded ecolytiq. We believe, and as a founders, we want to have a real big impact on climate change. Climate change needs exponential solutions because it's not about linear solutions or smaller steps. We have to do it on an exponential level. And we believe that banks are in a key role to fight climate change. And this is why we believe at ecolytiq we scale much better with the banks than with anything else. So we built the digital infrastructure for sustainability for the banks. And through that infrastructure, we reach their customers, millions of bank customers. And our goal is to reach 100 million customers by 2024 and 200 million the year after, 2025. So it's all about scale.
Wow, that's such a really heartening story. I mean, the fact that this is a passion and it has deep meaning for you in terms of your children and leaving a legacy. And equally just, the 200 million by 2025. I mean, it's a fantastic stretch, and it's just wonderful to see that you're so committed to that original mission. So I guess if we think about sustainability as a service solution, which is the core offering, can you just explain what this means for consumers in very kind of simple and layman terms?
Yes, happy to do. Basically, we all want to do our part in fighting climate change. If you ask the people, do you want to do something about it? Everybody will tell you, of course, what can I do? But where do I start as an individual? We know that customer choices or everyday choices are very important because they basically stand for 65% of all greenhouse gas emissions globally, according to a study from Yale University. So very relevant decisions I'm taking every day. At ecolytiq, we believe payment data is the key to solve climate change, because payment data gives us the possibility to calculate individual footprints. Now, how is that? Because everything I do, and with payments getting more and more digital, everything is reflected in my payment transactions every day. Things like buying a coffee, charging my electric car, the energy provider I am paying, everything is in my transaction. And at ecolytiq, we say every transaction has an impact. So what we do is we calculate the impact of individual transactions and purchases we do. So for example, that visit to the steakhouse yesterday, the steak I was having for 30 euros, that is 25 kilo of CO2, right? But you know, what's 25 kilo of CO2? It's the same like driving 2 hours with a car. So we give content and context to make people understand what their consumption is all about. And we give also advices on how to reduce the footprint. So for example, next time you go to a steakhouse, maybe go for a chicken, because white meat has 75% less impact than red meat. Did you already know? So you don't have to become a vegan person, which is 100% less impact, but you can start with a little steps. And that's what we try to bring across. And we help consumers to understand, to reduce, and also to compensate their footprint.
It's a great proposition. I did go vegan 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago now, so I definitely won't be frequenting that steakhouse. But it's a brilliant analogy, and just in that simple kind of analogy, it makes it really, really clear and transparent on how I can have a personal impact. So thank you for explaining that. I think it's really insightful. It's great to have you on board with the Visa FinTech Partner Connect program. And for the listeners that are not aware, ecolytiq is part of our unique program at Visa that delivers the next generation of digital finance solutions. It's called the Visa FinTech Partner Connect program, and combines kind of Visa's open network with a selection or a cohort of Visa partner solutions to make it simpler for banks and other kind of FIs to integrate with fintech solutions. In terms of being a part of this program, Ulrich, what does that really mean to the business and ultimately to your customers?
So it was very important for us in our mission to scale the business fast and exponential. So from the very first day, 1.5 years ago, when the company was founded, we were not a German company, we were a European company. And that was very much due to Visa and being partner of the FinTech Connect program. I mean, in one day, I was talking to banks in Norway, Turkey, and Poland. I mean, that was also due to the COVID crisis, so less travel and more digital meetings. But it was and more digital meetings. But it was amazing to see that we could cover so many different markets with our technology. That's the good thing with technology. It just scales. You switch the languages, you switch the calculations to be precise for the country, and it all works within just a couple of hours or days. So that was important for us to reach the scale we want to have. And it was also a very good partnership because we've seen all the enthusiasm of not only the banks out there, but also of the Visa AEs that pushed out the message, that went to the banks, that basically sold our mission and got us into the discussion with the banks. still a hard thing to do because, banks are hard to tackle, but we'll together with Weather, our access is much better, much faster, much more to the point, and that really makes us growing much faster. And also interesting to see that this is already going into outside of Europe. So we are having the first discussion with Canadian banks, US banks. We are also part of the FinTech Connect program in the US. So for Visa, and that's very good news for us.
I really feel good about kind of hearing those stories because I think it's one of mutual benefit. And I think any partnership is ultimately about mutual benefit. We were able to facilitate access, but equally bring something very compelling in terms of the sustainability kind of finance solution use case to a bank, but equally also help you kind of navigate through, those very large organizations that sometimes can be a little bit daunting to try and get to the key decision makers. There are a lot of propositions, in the marketplace across Europe, in the UK, that are striving for kind of positive, sustainable change. How does your solution really enable customers, consumers, and businesses be a force for good? How do you differentiate that? How do you kind of make that more meaningful compared to others?
Yes, there are three things that differentiate us in the market. One of the most important things from our perspective is that everything we calculate and our algorithms, how we come to the numbers, is based on an open standard, which means it's a full transparency there, how we come to certain values. I mean, there are about 30,000 studies coming out every year about impact, supply chain transparency, but we are not there yet to be really 100% precise in the calculations. So we make it really transparent how we come to the numbers on an open standard. Everybody can join, everybody can participate. Everybody can tell us if they have better numbers. Happy to so it's like a Wikipedia for CO2 values, and we believe that's the right approach compared to proprietary indices where people don't know and maybe put the bank on the spot and how do they calculate the numbers, and then the bank can say, well, I don't know because it's proprietary. The second thing is that we take the user along a whole journey. So there are a couple of CO2 calculators out there, but as I've already said, like what's 25 kilo of CO2? What does it mean? So we give the content and the context to it. We give these little advices. We have thousands of content pieces we play out at the very moment the customer goes deeper into his transactions. And the third thing we do is we also offer a marketplace the possibility to offset for individual transactions or complete footprints by donating money to certified organizations that do good to the planet. And the latest product we are having is that instead of a donation, I do the offsetting by doing an investment into ESG products. Which will be the future. So funneling money into the right direction is basically creating the win-win-win. It's a win for the customer because he keeps the money and gets a nice interest. It's a win for the bank because they're back in the commission game there, selling products. And it's a win for the planet because the money is funneled into these amazing new things that are coming out there. And last but not least, the third thing about us, besides the open standard and the end-to-end journey, is that we individualize the numbers to the country. So we do country-specific adaptations because the same transaction of a French citizen at the steakhouse and a UK citizen in the steakhouse is having a different impact because the energy mix in the UK is different to that in France. So that's important to understand. So we do calculate the numbers on a local level, and we also take in local studies and local research and local institutes there.
We've spoken a lot about consumers. If I may, I'd like to pivot towards just businesses. And if we think about kind of behavior changes and how or the ecolytiq solution can help businesses, and that could be, I guess, big business, small business, SMEs. I know certainly in the UK, small businesses are kind of the heart of the UK economy, but big businesses too. So any insight there in terms of how this solution could be adapted from a business context?
Yeah, absolutely. So lately I was speaking to my ex-boss who's relocated 10 years ago. He relocated to Silicon Valley and is now a very yeah, kind of famous Silicon Valley investor. And I was presenting him the case, and he said, "Well, okay, I got the message. So I believe there's one factor where you will be successful or not successful, which is if this is getting from a marketing case for the banks, nice green proposition. When it gets from a marketing to a business case for the banks to make money with it, then I believe in this business model." So, investors are money driven, of course, not that impact driven yet. So he says, but we see it the same way. So we have to turn this into a business case for the banks. And we also try to show them that the impact they are having is much larger than their current perspective, because their current perspective is always today limited on their own employees, on their own branches and office buildings and the business travels of their employees. So let's say I'm talking about a bank with 1,000 employees, and getting climate neutral with these 1,000 employees is one target, but reaching out from this 1,000 employees to maybe 1 million customers they're having, educating these 1 million customers instead, or on top of it, and educating them how to reduce their footprint, I'm multiplying my impact, right? Because I'm having not the impact on 1,000 employees, instead I'm having the impact on 1 million bank customers. So there's a huge impact. And the third thing is to keep the banks going, we have to make it really convenient and seamless from the technical perspective. So we have products that don't even need any technical integration effort from the bank side. So seamlessly, easy, convenient. That's very important for the banks to adapt this technology.
Great. That's really thoughtful, because I know that deployment can be a barrier at times. So if we think about partnerships, and I mean, there's many that we can talk about, but you're working closely with Tomorrow at the moment, which is another of our fintech partners. Are you able to tell us more about that partnership?
Yeah, Tomorrow is a great partnership. It was our very first partnership with a bank, and they're really into the sustainability proposition. Probably the most sustainable bank in Germany today, and the most advanced. And we are really happy to have them as a partner, because we could basically try out new features with them. We did develop our product with them, and really had live customers to test our product with. So it's really has been a journey for 12 months now already with them, and very happy to have them as a partner. But also other partners are important. So we see us really scaling with the partners and not on our own, because I know if I employ, I don't know, 50 people in sales and reach out to the banks, it will take me years to get the banks where we are today. So the Visa partnership obviously is one of the most important we are having, giving us access to the banks. But not only that, we have processors we are working with, for example, integrating currently into a processor that has a reach in 12 countries in Europe. So with one technology integration, we could reach out to 12 countries multiplied by the banks he's having. We have resellers. So lately, a big auditing company invested into ecolytiq, and they are also basically talking to every bank, and giving us the chance to be resold through their network. And also the challenger banks are important, because the Tomorrows of this world are important, because they push the bigger banks to move ahead. So we already see that the bigger banks are moving because of these rather small today challenger banks, but they keep them moving, and that's the good thing.
So I know we were going to run out of time today, so this is probably my last question. It's gone really fast. There's been a lot of press, a lot of media coverage, a lot of policymakers coming together to talk about climate change, sustainability, and to really put kind of charters together that fast track and leapfrog. COP26 is coming up later this year. What would basically be the one thing that you'd ask our listeners to do to ensure that they could kind of have a more sustainable future? I mean, if you could have a magic wand and tell them to do one thing, what would that be?
Well, it's probably, as mentioned, the little steps you can do every day. Everyone can do every day. It's like, taking a bike instead of the car, switching from red meat to white meat, changing the energy provider, all these little things that are really not really hard to do. But if we can do this on a scale of millions of consumers, it has a really huge impact, and we call it like the mainstreamize the sustainability here, and make it really available on a broad level. And that's what I would recommend. And I mean, the next thing I would recommend is the consumers to keep on pushing the banks, keep on pushing the companies out there to do better, because they can. I mean, it's a consumer choice out there, and they're having really the impact on everything companies will do in the future. So they should keep on pushing the companies to do better, to be more transparent with their supply chains, with their products, and then companies will do so. So that's the consumers. It's all in the consumer's hand.
Ulrich, thank you so much. Certainly, we value the partnership at Visa. Thank you for joining us and sharing, your views, your passion, your vision, and certainly how this all began for you. And we'll speak to you again soon.